みんながそばに。運命よ、ここにいでよ。超拡散形態。安全距離確認。吸引テスト開始。
Sucrose is a 4-star Anemo Catalyst user that is surprisingly flexible, whether you wish to provide potent elemental mastery buffs, on-field damage, or even a mix of both. Her main kit revolves around buffing her party members' elemental mastery, a stat that amplifies elemental reaction damage, allowing reaction-based teams to deal more damage. In addition to her buffing ability, Sucrose's ability to gather enemies with her elemental skill and burst allows her teammates to easily tear through enemies. In addition, she doesn't require high talent levels to have impact in a team. However, she is not without faults. As a character that can only deal Anemo damage, Sucrose relies on swirl reactions and cannot handle mono-type enemies, such as slimes, well. Her main source of damage and support utility are bound to her elemental skill and burst, which both have long cooldowns, so she needs to be played with downtimes in mind. Additionally, her elemental burst has a high energy cost, so fueling her burst can be difficult without a large amount of energy recharge. Sucrose's normal attack talent, Wind Spirit Creation, is a 4-hit attack string that deals Anemo damage. While her normal attack's base damage is relatively low, Sucrose's normal attacks can cause swirl reactions, easily amplifying her damage. Sucrose's elemental skill, a stable Anemo Hypostasis Creation 6308, is an AoE Anemo attack that can pull enemies towards the center of the AoE. In addition to enemies, Sucrose can also pull field objects and other character deployables, such as Klee's Mines or Amber's Baron Bunny. Sucrose's elemental burst is Forbidden Creation, Isomer 75 Type 2. Sucrose launches a vial, which explodes into a giant crystal fly that will pulse every 2 seconds, pulling and launching enemies. In addition, the crystal fly can absorb one element, adding the absorbed elemental damage on top of the Anemo damage with each pulse. While her active talents provide very useful damage and utility, Sucrose's passives are just as important. Sucrose's first passive talent, Catalyst Conversion, gives 50 elemental mastery to party members with the same element Sucrose causes a swirl with. For example, if Sucrose were to swirl Pyro, she would increase her Pyro-aligned party members' elemental mastery by 50. Sucrose's more important second passive talent, Mollis Favonius, provides 20% of Sucrose's elemental mastery to the whole party after using her elemental skill or burst. As mentioned, elemental mastery is what amplifies the elemental reaction damage for the DPS units to take full advantage of, so it is very important to utilize these passives. So, how should you build Sucrose? There are 2 main methods to play her, as an elemental mastery support and as an on-field DPS. Luckily, both of Sucrose's roles now work with the same build, making her even more flexible. Sucrose's elemental mastery support build is centered around transferring her elemental mastery stats to the party using her elemental skill and burst. Because support Sucrose exists on the team only to provide buffs, she only needs to invest in her talents if you want to increase her personal damage. If you do plan to increase her personal damage, the talent priority is elemental burst, then skill. You do not need to level up her normal attack talent since you won't be using them. As Sucrose shares a portion of her own elemental mastery with her party members, her best weapons are those which provide a high amount of elemental mastery. Her best weapon for this playstyle by a huge margin is Sacrificial Fragments. Not only does it provide high elemental mastery, Sacrificial Fragments also give Sucrose a chance to refresh her elemental skill when the skill hits an enemy, which will allow Sucrose to recast her elemental skill, which can provide more energy and also refresh the duration of her elemental mastery transfer. Sucrose can also make use of Magic Guide, a 3-star catalyst, as a free-to-play option, as it has the second highest elemental mastery substat value of any catalyst. You can also use Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers for a nice attack buff to the DPS characters in your team. Sucrose's best artifact set for this playstyle is the 4-piece Viridescent Venerer set. The 4-piece set bonus allows Sucrose to reduce enemies' resistance to the element that Sucrose swirls. This allows Pyro, Cryo, Electro, and Hydro DPS units to deal more damage. Sucrose can also make use of the combination of the 2-piece Instructors and 2-piece Wanderers troop set, which helps push Sucrose's elemental mastery stat even higher at the cost of losing the significant Venerer shred. As for main stats and substats, Sucrose should prioritize getting artifacts with elemental mastery. You can also opt to use an energy recharge Sands for higher burst uptime. Now let's talk about how to play Sucrose as an on-field carry. Sucrose, as an on-field carry, is unique in that she relies on strong off-field DPS units to deal the majority of the damage in the team. However, Sucrose's unique elemental mastery sharing mechanic, ability to swirl to trigger reactions, and access to the Viridescent Venerer set can boost her teammates' damage significantly, increasing the team damage on top of the damage that Sucrose herself adds. The overall damage also gets increased with Sucrose's 4th constellation, which decreases her skill cooldown. Both her elemental skill and burst provide good crowd control utility and decent damage, but her burst edges it out by just a little bit more, making it a higher priority than her skill. Her normal attacks still do relatively low damage, but it's now encouraged to level the talent up a bit. Sucrose has the same options for weapons for a DPS build, Sacrificial Fragments and Magic Guide. It is worth using Mappa Mare as well for a smaller damage buff, but it is the lesser of the 3 weapons listed here. Sucrose's best set for this build is still the 4-piece Viridescent Venerer set, as it increases swirl and anemo damage considerably, along with decreasing elemental resistance of enemies hit by the swirl. However, if you want to rely solely on Sucrose's raw damage without triggering any swirls or reactions, you can opt for the combination of the 2-piece Viridescent Venerer set and the 2-piece Gladiator's Finale set. The combination of 2-piece Instructors and 2-piece Wanderer's troops still works, as the extra elemental mastery will help. The main stat priority on-field DPS Sucrose is also elemental mastery on the Sands, Goblet, and Circlet. If, by chance, you do not have a full elemental mastery set, you can make do with elemental mastery on the Sands, anemo damage on the Goblet, and crit on the Circlet temporarily. As for the substats, Sucrose should always go for more elemental mastery and energy recharge. Let's move on to team compositions. As an elemental mastery support, Sucrose is usually paired with units that are reliant on reactions to deal damage, such as Tartaglia or Diluc, along with supports which enable those main DPS units to trigger reactions. A good example team comp is Diluc, Xingqiu, Bennett, and Sucrose. In this team, Diluc functions as the main DPS, Xingqiu provides off-field damage and applies Hydro to enemies to allow Diluc to vaporize his damage, Bennett provides healing and buffs, and Sucrose provides crowd control, elemental mastery buffs, and resistance shred. Sucrose's most well-known on-field DPS team is the Taser team. The team consists of Sucrose, Beidou, Fischl, and Xingqiu. In this team, Beidou, Fischl, and Xingqiu constantly apply Electro and Hydro to enemies, while Sucrose functions as the on-field carry who constantly triggers Swirl and Electro Charge reactions while boosting the elemental mastery of her teammates. Sucrose will usually not be dealing the majority of the team's damage, but her ability to constantly trigger reactions and buff her teammates considerably increases the team's overall damage. Sucrose is an enigmatic character, often misjudged as she has her own niche as a support with her boost to elemental mastery. Once players begin to understand what Sucrose does and how she is played, she can end up being a very integral team member. Thanks for watching. For more quick guides, check out some of the other videos on the Kitching Main's YouTube channel.